So how does this all work? Well, from a 10,000 foot view, here's what I'm actually doing. I'm going and getting the element info. That tells me if it's a PartStudio or if it's an assembly. Anything else, I quit the program because there's no shaded views for anything besides a PartStudio and an assembly. Then I get the configurations from the element. That should be configurations, not configuration. Then I get from each configuration, I get the configuration encoding, which is a pointer to that configuration. And then from there, I've got to use each one of those configurations to get my parts from that element based on that configuration. So that's going to give me a part ID or a pointer to that part. From there, I can kick this out and basically get the shaded view. For an assembly, there's no part ID because there's only one assembly in an element. And then there's just different configurations. For parts, there's going to be several different parts, several different configurations as we see over here. So that's sort of the overview of it. And what I did is I just log each one of these out so you can see what a response is. So this is get parts from elements. So if we run this, we can see how this all works. So there's what I'm passing in. I get all that information. That's actually my pictures. These are base 64 images. So if we take this last guy, let's take this one and just throw it into I already had one. Throw it into here. So this is just Code Beauty base 64 image converter. And throw that into there, paste that into there, and there's my image. So that's a good way to test it while you're troubleshooting. Let's quickly go through this. All this output. In production, of course, you wouldn't have this much output, but this is kind of showing you how it goes together. So first thing, get info list. This is what that is generating. This is my JSON response from that. And of course, that's a PartStudio. So we're going to handle PartStudio, 2 different paths. And then we get the configuration. There's configurations, and this is the configurations right where they say options. See this options, that is from there to there is my configurations. So I got a half and a half. Again, I can't use those. I have to get pointers to them. So now I get my pointers, get configuration encodings, and I'm passing in that. I'm actually passing in this. I'm not passing in the option name. I'm passing in the option because they're different, and that will be very, very confusing unless you make sure you're giving it the right thing. Most of the time, this option name will work just fine. There's that time that it won't, which when you get into complex configurations. So make sure you add in the option right there. This guy right here, and not this guy right here. So this basically gives you a pointer, configuration encodings, like I said. So it gives you 2 pointers. This is your URL encoded. This is more of a parameter. Well, this is a URL encoded parameter, I guess. It's a JSON parameter. So we've got 2 of those since we've got 2 configurations. And then I've got to run this get parts from element twice. And when I'm pulling out of there, I'm pulling out these part IDs. And if I look at these part IDs, if you look, let's see, let's go to the bottom. Makes it a little simpler to see things. So if we look at here, my part name here is, where's my part name? Oh, I went too far. Okay, my part name right here is round, and I got a JUD. And now I'm getting a shaded view for those parts based on that configuration. And then if we go to these other element views, let's go down and look at my round part again. So there's my round part again. This one is not JUD, JMD. So it took me a while to figure out. So remember, these part IDs change per configuration. So that's just a pointer to that configuration. And I'll go and get my other shaded views. And so that's basically the gist of it. And breaking that down, if we go and look at how I'm actually calling this stuff. So if you look at this first one, get element info. We'll go to that website. That's being called directly. You're not going to see this like I'm seeing this because I have something called a JSON viewer. This is an add-on to Chrome. I just click on this. If you need to get that, that it is. There it is right there. Tulios JSON viewer. Looks good. Makes it look nice. So basically there's my call out, but what I'm doing is so if I go and look at this in here, my element response, and let's just do this in, so here's how I actually derived that, how that code was, how I got that code. I went into here and workspace ID, let's make sure that's right, workspace ID, DB, yep, that's right. My element ID. So if I give an optional element ID, let's just go get that from here. Where is it? Right here. That's how I'm passing that in. I should come up with the same thing. Oops, element type. Oh no, I'll get element type. Let's get this. Okay, so that's good. That gives me the same data. But I'm going to show you how I actually did this. If I go over to that one. So if I go over to here and I look at my network and there's nothing, we can clear it. We'll talk to each other every now and then, and you'll see little things pop up, but here we go. I just sent that. I think my cat did something. There we go. So let's just clear that. There we go. So we look at this generic endpoint. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have clicked on that. We look on this. So I'm sending everything to this generic endpoint, just like they're doing in the API Explorer. And then this is basically my request right here. Now I took that out of view source and basically put it into a regular JSON file. But that's all the data I'm sending them, and there's my access key in my API secret and all that good stuff. And then there's a secret down there, and then here's my query, all that good stuff. So I'm basically doing the same thing that they're doing with API Explorer, and instead of using that direct call to that API, which is API documents, cat Onshape API documents, I am using the call to this generic endpoint, which is right here, and I pack in all the information I need. I'll just copy it from here, and here's my response right here. So basically that's how I did it. Hopefully that makes sense. I don't know if it totally does. You have to kind of do it a couple times, and I'll show you how I kind of did it maybe in another video. This one's kind of getting long. I will shut this down and go and show you. Hang on a second. if we look at the code for that one, which I know is at the bottom and is easy to get to, this is my error picture. So I can copy that on and paste that into here and get my error. So if we look at, so basically here's how I set that up. So here's my path. I basically took the path that they're sending over here in my headers. They're sending the path in this header right there. And I set up that path to be the same. And then I just, this is my option. So I know it's always going to be a get. It's always a get to that actual part of the program, and it all has to be JSON that we're sending it to. And then this is all the JSON right here, and all that JSON right there equals all this JSON right here. And hopefully that makes sense. After a little bit, you start to figure these things out, and you can make basically any call. You can't. The thing about this is you can't make direct calls. Like I could not make this direct call because I'm using that endpoint, that generic endpoint to basically act as my server. Hopefully that helps. And let me know if you have any questions.